Amen. In our presentation yesterday, we began constructing a reform line, and we went through a series of Spirit Prophecy quotes. I've re-put the Spirit Prophecy quotes where we got to. We got to everything above this line. We'll just draw the reform line that we began to construct. Saw that the reform line began at the time of the end, and it was preceded by a period of darkness. I've not attempted to explain any of this information. Sister Katenda began to do that yesterday, and she'll carry on doing that. My purpose was just to give a basic overview of how the logic has been developed to create this line. So this one here was the darkness. Following the darkness, what did we say happened? First angel's message. So the first angel's message is a message of reform. So that's what this passage told us. And who was associated with this message? Miller. And we saw that Ellen White referenced two men. Who were the two men? It was Elisha and it was John. But of course we know that John, if you will accept him, is Elijah. And in the reform line of Christ, the person who follows John the Baptist is Christ. So we saw how Miller is symbolizing both Elijah and Elisha, both John the Baptist and Jesus. Then we saw that the second angel's message was a message of revival. Then we saw that the third angel's message is a message of judgment. And then what happened after the third angel's message arrives? There's this disappointment. And what follows the disappointment? Restoration. And this restoration we saw specifically the restoration of two subjects which are connected together. What are they? It's the Sabbath and man. Man is going to be restored. And remember, it's the image of God that's going to be restored in man. Then we saw that evil creeps into the church. And that's as far as we got yesterday. So we're going to read Evangelism 695, paragraph 3 again. So that's the point that we got to yesterday. Had Adventists, after the great disappointment in 1844, held fast their faith and followed on unitedly in the opening providence of God, receiving the message of the third angel, and in the power of the Holy Spirit proclaiming it to the world, they would have seen the salvation of God. The Lord would have wrought mightily with their efforts, the work would have been completed, and Christ would have come ere this to receive his people to their reward. But in the period of doubt and uncertainty that followed the disappointment, many of the Advent believers yielded their faith. Thus the work was hindered and the world was left in darkness. Had the whole Adventist body united upon the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, how widely different would have been our history. So that's as far as we got yesterday, and we're going to continue developing this line so that we can draw out some more truths. The only thing that I want us to see, that I didn't mention yesterday, is when we think about this restoration that's going on here, under the ministration of the third angel, what day is the Sabbath? So we know that this is connected with the seventh day. And what about man? So we know that there's something here about the sixth and the seventh day. The day of the Lord and the day of the Lord's preparation. So I want us to just remember that. And the other thing that I want us to remember, in fact maybe you don't remember it, I didn't mention it, maybe you're not aware of this, but the subject of the restoration of man, even though Ellen White connects it here to the third angel, is that correct? That's what we read. Yeah? She said, let me read the portion that we want to pick up from there. She said, thus, genuine medical missionary work is bound up inseparably with the keeping of God's commandments, of which the Sabbath is especially mentioned, since it is the great memorial of God's creative work. Its observance is bound up with the work of restoring the moral image of God in man. So why are these two subjects connected together? What is the Sabbath a memorial of? So the Sabbath is a memorial of creation, and the memorial is what? Just a remembrance. So the Sabbath is a remembrance of creation. And she says, its observance is bound up with the work of restoring the moral image of God in man. So this restoration of the moral image of God in man, what word would we give for that? Shout out loud if it's a large hall. Marriage? maybe if I would suggest the word redeem or redemption. So this work of redemption, maybe we could use the word conversion, is indicating what concept, what idea. When we thought about repentance, we thought about reform, revival, they're all here. And we mentioned redemption, and now I'm using this other word, conversion. What's going on here that's connected with the Sabbath? It's a work of creation, isn't it? So what's happening here is the work of creation, or I don't know if there's actually a word that says this, but recreation. There is actually. Because we ask God to do what? To recreate us. Yeah? It's a inspired term. So the reason why these two are connected is because Sabbath being a memorial, and what is a memorial? A remembrance of creation. It's connected to the restoration of the image of God in humanity, because that is also a work of creation. So that's why they're connected together. But this is happening on the 6th day, and this is happening on the 7th day. So I want us to remember that. Does that make a difference? So for most Adventists, it wouldn't make any difference. It wouldn't make any difference, because you just read this statement from Testimonies of Church Volume 6, and all it would say is, after all of this happened, then there was this restoration of the image of God in humanity. But when you start using the rules that we mentioned, then you're forced to reevaluate what these things mean, to re-examine what they mean, because they mean a lot more than you might initially think. Daniel 8:13, Parminder, he's doing some work here. What's the work that he's doing? Numbers. What are the numbers that we're dealing with? 6 and 7. Can we see that? They're the numbers we're dealing with. So if you've got 6 and 7, they're in a sequence. If they're a sequence, one follows the other, then you can then put them on a line. So now you can put things on a line. So she gives us all the clues if we're willing to see. So here's the 6th day, and here's the 7th day. And this is the day of the Lord's preparation, and this is the Lord's Day. I just call it the Lord's Day. So the day of the Lord's preparation and the day of the Lord. So we've got this sequence now. And what happens on this day? What is all of this? Okay, so it's the creation of man, and this is the creation of what? Of everything, the whole thing, isn't it? But probably more specifically, the world, everything that's in the world, all the creatures in the world. To make this distinction between the two. That's what the Sabbath is all about. It's a memorial of the work of creation, both of man, but also of the whole world, all the animals. So I want us to see that it's all about creation. Now, it's not clear in any of these passages, and I've not mentioned it, but in this history here, a brother called Fitch, he produces a series of documents that deal with what subject? Pretty sure it's Fitch. someone relay that? I can't hear it. The second row puts a series of presentations about perfection and man's ability to be free from doing sin, or what we might call sinlessness. The whole subject of perfection. So the subject of perfection is going to be addressed in this period here under the history of revival. Should this surprise us? It shouldn't surprise us when we understand what the second angel's work is, what happens under this ministry or dispensation. So it says, under the ministration of the third angel, these two things are happening. We agree with that? But if we're going to put them on a line, they're happening in a sequence. First man, then the Sabbath. Are we okay with that? So if this here, this seventh day, is connected with the third angel's message, third angel's message, the Sabbath, what's this creation or recreation of man associated with? Which angel would that be associated with? So I'm going to say it's the third angel here, because that's what we read. We're going to let Ellen White guide us. So this is also the third angel. So they're both happening under the dispensation or the ministry of the third angel. So there's a problem, because we saw that this subject of perfection was actually being dealt with under the history of what angel? Second, which is why people said the second angel. So what can you now begin to deduce? What can you start to work out? Where does the third angel begin to do its work? Somewhere back here. Yeah? So we know that the third angel is not just beginning his work here, he's beginning to do his work here. The problem is, you won't find an Ellen White statement to prove that. What you have to do is use the pillar and foundation of Adventism. You have to use the skill and the wisdom of Palmoni to begin to construct a detailed history of what's going on here. So I want us to keep that in the back of our mind, that just this casual statement here, when you start analysing it carefully, you begin to open the understanding that the third angel in Millerite history is looking like this. It's actually beginning its ministration back here. And most people will not believe that. The reason why they don't believe it is because there are these hard, when I mean hard, I don't mean difficult, I mean black and white, clear statements from the Spirit of Prophecy. The third angel's message arrives here on October 22nd, 1844. She's quite unequivocal about that. But yet, she gives us all of these clues, all of these ideas, all of these hints, that actually the third angel begins before. So we're going to keep that thought in the back of your mind. That's just a diversion. It's not part of the construction. But I'm just adding it here so that we can see when she says these apparently random things that we can just put here, that we want to make sure that we understand how to really place those things. So if we were just to go with the Day of the Lord's preparation and the Sabbath here, if we were going to make an application, we shouldn't really make an application because it would be very premature to do that because we don't have enough information, but many of us are relatively experienced and familiar with this message. So if we were going to make an application for our time, what would this event be, this dispensation? The Day of the Lord, or the Lord's Day, what would we call that? What history? This is the history of the Sunday law. We're making an application, because I'm making an application in our history. So if this is the history of the Sunday law, this is the history that precedes the Sunday law. So this day of the Lord's preparation, now we might argue about this, and I'm open to hear people's perspectives, but we want to know when Friday begins, don't we? We know it begins on sunset, on Thursday evening, but it's sunset. I want us to remember it's sunset when this day begins. There are a number of Bible stories. The easiest one you would go to is Matthew 25, where you can pick up sunset. Yeah? So by the time you get to sunset, these people are all there, ready and waiting, because they're expecting the bridegroom to come. But then there's going to be this tarrying time. We're all familiar with that? So I would suggest that this preparation day here begins at 9:11, takes you to the Sunday law, and then what we would have here would be something that we call the close of probation. This is just a basic application. So once you can see the relationship between the Sabbath and the restoration of man, these two creative processes, and know that they're on the 6th and 7th day, you can begin to see some profound truths. And the most profound one, obviously, is that the restoration of the creative work of God in humanity is going to be complete by the time you get to the Sunday law. Can we all see that? Yeah? So you can get all of that from 2 sentences in the Spirit of Prophecy if you work your way carefully through and you follow these rules. You have to have a lot of faith to follow these rules, because they stand in stark contradiction to 14, 16, 18, whatever number we are. I'll go with 16 million people on this planet, Adventists. They teach otherwise. Now, there are many conservative Adventists who talk about the putting away of sin today, but they really don't have a power to do that. They don't have a methodology. They don't have an intellectual explanation of how sin is to be put away and the mechanics of all of that. All of that information, that discussion about the putting away of sin, which is the restoration of the image of God in a human being, we would wrap that up in 3 words. Justification by faith. Many people talk about it, very few people experience it. Why would you not experience justification by faith? Because you go anywhere in conservative Adventism and they're all talking about it. They're all experts, claimed experts, on the 1888 message, justification by faith. Why are people not experiencing it? So we've discussed this already, right? I want us to see the steps, the logic that we can use to answer that question. Because justification by faith is what? That's probably not a helpful question, because you don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to read the Spirit of Prophecy quote. You all know this quote. This passage is so famous, it's found in a number of different places. I'm going to read it from First Selected Messages 372, paragraph 2. 1SM 372, paragraph 2. Paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. I'm going to read the introduction bit. By the way, First Selected Messages is what it says. It's a compilation of messages that have been selected by somebody, some review committee got some passages that they liked and they collated them all together. It's called selected messages. But a better source to use, because it gives you a reference point, is Review and Herald, April the 1st, 1890. So if it's 1890, where should your mind go? The 1888 message, you know it's connected to the 1888 message. We picked up a number of dates. We said 1884, 1886, 1888, and now 1890. It's not a coincidence, they're all jumping in 2-year gaps. There's another nice statement that she writes in the year 1892. There's so many patterns in inspiration, if you're willing to see them and let them guide you. This is in 1890, so you know it's something to do with the third angel's message. Sorry, with the message of Wagner and Jones. Oh, I'll give you the date, yes. Review and Herald, April the 1st, 1890. Review and Herald, April the 1st, 1890. Some of our brethren have expressed fears that we shall dwell too much upon the subject of justification by faith. Who are these brethren? These are leaders. I mean, that's to put it kindly. They've expressed some fears. These people are Korah, Dathan and Abiram. Korah, Dathan and Abiram are coming to attack Wagner and Jones and Ellen White. But I hope and pray that none will be needlessly alarmed, for there is no danger in presenting this doctrine as it is set forth in the Scriptures. If there had not been a remissness, which means a neglect, in the past to properly instruct the people of God, there would not now be a necessity of calling a special attention to it. Now this is an important point, because people say, why do you keep on going on and on about prophecy? You never talk about anything else, which actually isn't true. But even if it were true, if we never spoke anything else but prophecy, why do we do that? Because in the past, what has there been? A neglect. That's what she says. If there hadn't been a neglect in the past, we wouldn't need to be doing this now. The language would have been the same language that we've used in the past all the way through. The exceeding great and precious promises given us in the Holy Scriptures have been lost sight of to a great extent, just as the enemy of all righteousness designed they should be. He has cast his own dark shadow between us and our God, that we may not see the true character of God. The Lord has proclaimed himself to be merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth. This is a statement that everybody quotes, several have written to me inquiring if the message of justification by faith is the third angel's message. And I've answered, it is the third angel's message in verity. What does verity mean? It means truthfulness. It just means truth. It is the third angel's message in truth. So there's no difference between justification by faith and the third angel's message. I would not want to suggest that if you're familiar with set theory, mathematics, if this was the third angel's message, it covered all of this. So all of this is the third angel's message. Justification by faith is not the whole thing. Justification by faith is a part of this message. It's not the entirety of it. But there's a problem. Because here when you get to 1888, God's people have not been addressing this part of the third angel's message. So now that's where the focus is going to be centered upon. We focus a lot. This is not a good diagram to explain this, but I'll do it this way, on prophecy. People say, why do you keep on talking about prophecy, not about your relationship with God, justification by faith? And we say, because this one's been neglected. You may be aware that in this movement, there is now a strong drive a focused attention upon this subject of justification by faith. And now that we're dealing with this subject, guess what people are doing? Rejecting it. History never changes. So what I want us to see, that the subject of the restoration of the image of God in humanity is a part of the third angel's message. We don't use that kind of phraseology. We use the phraseology of justification by faith, these three words, justification by faith. That's what's being dealt with here. That's what gets restored, justification by faith. Is my battery okay, or?
How do you spell that verity?
V-E-R. I'll write it on the board. Testing. Apologise for that. Verity. Latin word, I think. V-E-R-I-T-Y. It means truth. God's people, by and large, do not understand what justification by faith is. I want to just say that as a blanket statement. We don't really have a clue about that. But the point I wanted to make here was the restoration of the image of God in man precedes the Sunday law. That's the point I want to make. And we know that this subject is connected to the third angel's message. We know that in the Millerite history, the subject of perfection came up before October 22nd, 1844. They made a strong push on this subject. And so if that's correct, you know that the third angel comes into history before October 1844. So we need to be able to explain what is happening with this third angel. It's not as straightforward as many people believe it to be. By the way, what is justification by faith? I mean, what is it? Simply, justification by faith is believing that you're justified. Simple as that. It just means you believe that you're justified. The problem is, very few people actually really understand the full implications of justification. So maybe we'll address that on Sunday. On Monday, depending on how we go with these studies. Early writings, 277, paragraph 1. Okay, so now we're back to where we left off yesterday. Adventists like to do their own thing. Let's count. 1, 2, 3. What comes next? Okay, see, everyone's going to say 4 and it's not correct. We're going to see that after these three angels have done their work, another angel is going to come down from heaven and do his work. So that's what we're going to read here in Early Writings 277, paragraph 1. So we're here, and there's another angel. And this other angel we're going to see is found in Revelation 18. I put verses 1 to 3. We didn't discuss this yesterday, but all of this history here is Revelation 14, verses 6 and 7, 8 and 9 to 11. That's what's being described here in Millerite history. Maybe I should stop there. Hopefully we're all familiar with that. Now we're going to see she's going to be talking about this other angel of Revelation 18. And as I say, most Adventists talk about it being the fourth angel. And as soon as you start doing that, you start allowing your mind to go down a road, because everybody knows that 4 is different to 1 and 2 and 3. So as soon as you start making this number 4, which Ellen White never uses, she never calls it a number 4, she just calls it another angel, I think deliberately, because she wants to make sure we don't get into this wrong mindset to think that it's a fourth angel. Because hopefully we're going to see that it's not the fourth angel. There is no fourth angel. The Bible talks about it as this is another angel, but we want to understand that it's not really another angel. In this history here, these first, second and third, are these all different angels? Literally, no, because they're not literal angels in the first place. Are they different people? No, because they're all a symbol of whom? Miller, I'll put Millerites, because it's Miller and his associates. It's a group of men, it's the movement. They're all a symbol of the movement. And as you transition through here, even though we have these hard waymarks correctly, you see that their message just is a continuum. Just one singular message, really. That message is what? What is the singular message that they have? Fear God, give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has come, which is the first angel's message. It's a singular message. I want us to conceptualize this, if we're able to, that the history of the Millerites is the history of what angel? It's the history of the first angel. Now the reason why people stumble at that, because we say, hold on, it's the first, second and third angel. But I want us to see, and I haven't proven this, and I'm not going to prove it because of shortness of time, that if we can begin to conceptualize that this is the history of the first angel, that's what I want us to see. And we're living in the history of what angel? We're living in the history of the third angel. So you've got the first angel is Millerite history, the third angel is our history, the history of 144,000. So we have to come up with some story, some model where we're going to place the second. Hopefully we'll be able to do that as we move on. Early Writings 277, paragraph 1. This other angel here repeats the second angel's message, the call out of Babylon. Great power and glory were imparted to the angel as he descended. The earth was lightened with his glory. We'll stop there just to make sure that we're all on the same page, because she's not quoting scripture here. Let's go to Revelation 18. Read Revelation 18 verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. The angel has great power, and the earth is lightened with his glory. She says this in a sentence, she's not quoting scripture. Great power and glory were imparted to the angel, and as he descended, the earth was lightened with his glory. This angel has what? Great power, and as he comes down, the earth is lightened with his glory. So this is an Ellen White sentence, but you can see that she's referring to Revelation 18 verse 1. We're okay with that? So that's why I've got Revelation 18 verse 1 there. The light which attended this angel penetrated everywhere as he cried mightily with a strong voice, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So she's quoted verse 2 there. So you've got verses 1 and 2. So you know that this angel who came down, what angel is it? Sorry? This is the second angel. The message of the fall of Babylon, as given by the second angel, is repeated with the additional mention of the corruptions which have been entering the churches since 1844. So, she talks about the message of the fall of Babylon, which is the message of the second angel, is being repeated. So if it's been repeated here, what does that tell you? The message must have been given before, because it says repeat, it means given again. So it's repeated here, and she told you when it first came, it gave you the year. What year was it? 1844. So we're here in 1844, that's the first time the message came, message of the second angel, and now it's being what? Repeated. If you're not careful and you don't place things upon a line, you end up coming to an understanding that is limited at best. And if it's limited, it has gaps in it. And if it has gaps in it, you're not going to make adequate preparation. I don't want to say that the church believes error, because I'm not saying that it does, but what I am saying is the church has a very limited understanding, a superficial understanding of what's going on here, and because of that they begin to have these wrong concepts. And if you want to call a wrong concept error, maybe that's the right way of expressing it, maybe it isn't, because she says that this message here is going to be repeated here. So if I use the word or the concept repeat, that would indicate you did things how many times? Twice. So this is how the church, this is how most Adventists understand what's going on, that it was given here. Let me rough some of this out. So here, we'll put the first time, and here would be the second time. Do you agree with that? Is that correct? Yeah? Is that the complete story? No, and that's the problem. It's not the complete story. When you don't get the complete story, you end up making mistakes. The message of the fall of Babylon, as given by the second angel, is repeated with the additional mention of the corruptions which have been entering the churches since 1844. Just want to make sure, when she says the churches, what is she talking about? What churches are these? These are the Protestant churches she's referring to. Yeah? So we know that. How? Because she says this is repeat of this, and we know for certain that the churches that are being dealt with in this history are the Protestant churches. So hopefully we're all on the same page. The work of this angel, which angel is this? The angel of Revelation 18. This angel comes in at the right time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read to the end of the paragraph, and then go back. The work of this angel comes in at the right time to join in the last great work of the third angel's message as it swells to a loud cry. And the people of God are thus prepared to stand in the hour of temptation, which they are soon to meet. I saw a great light resting upon them, and they united to fearlessly proclaim the third angel's message. I want us to pick up some phrases. The work of this angel, Angel Revelation 18, comes in at the right time. So take a mental note of the right time. Sorry, I have to keep on going back and forth. So, right time. To join in the last great work of the third angel's message. So what is the right time? Comes in at the right time to join in the last great work of the third angel. What's the right time? The last great work of whom? Third angel. Okay, so you know this angel is not the third angel. I just want to make that clear. We know it's not the third angel. So this angel is going to come down at the right time. And when is the right time? Just when the third angel is going to begin to do what? To do its last great work. So I'm going to put begin here. Should have put it here. Begins the last great work of the third angel. I'm going to rewrite that to put it into a sentence. The third angel begins the last great work. Not the it. Everybody okay with that? I'll read it again. The work of this angel comes in at the right time to join in the last great work of the third angel's message. Yep. The next part of the sentence says, as it, what is the it? What's the it? The third angel. As it, the third angel, swells to a loud cry. So what's the right time? When the third angel is just to begin to swell to a loud cry. And what is the swelling of the loud cry? On what's on the board? What is the swelling of the third angel? It's the last great work. So I want us to see that. The last great work of the third angel is when it swells. What swells? The cry. So if the voice or the cry is now swelling, what's that telling you before? It was already there. The voice was already there, now it swells. So if I'm speaking and my microphone stops working, now I have to shout. But I was speaking before. I want us to see that the third angel's message never stopped speaking from when it first came. So it's been speaking all the way through, and now it begins to swell to the loud cry. This swelling is what? It's the last great work, and this swelling comes when? When does the swelling come? At an appointed time. And this angel knows when that is. Because when that appointed time comes, this angel leaves heaven and joins the third angel. So, let's put that into a diagram. remember we had here the third angel. We have to decide this, but we're going to use our standard understanding. When does the third angel's message come into history? Here, October 22nd, 1844. Third angel's message has been running through history. There was a disappointment. There's a restoration. Evil enters the church. And then here, at this point, what time is this? It's the right time. So at the right time, what does this third angel begin to do? It begins to swell. And this swelling is what? The loud cry. And at this point here, when this angel begins to swell its cry, this angel knows to do what? To come down. So there's an interaction at this point here between this angel and this angel. When you begin to see what's really going on here, you begin to see that the second angel, this angel of Revelation 18, when it comes down, what does it have? Great power and glory were imparted. What does the word impart mean? And if we know, if we get into grammar, there are two words we should really get to grips with them. The two words are impart and impute. Impart and impute. We're looking at impart. The word impart means if I gave you something, the thing that you have, who does it belong to? It belongs to me. That's what impart means. Impute means when I give you that thing, who does it belong to? It belongs to you. If I impute something to you, you take ownership. If I impart something to you, then it's still mine. So there's this power and glory that are imparted to this angel. It's given to this angel by a more glorious, a more powerful being. Who would that be? That would be God. If you go to early writings, Ellen White actually describes this story in a parable. Jesus gives all of these things to this angel. So he comes down with this power, and when he comes, the earth is going to be lightened with his glory. So I want to suggest that when he comes here, he's the one that is going to give power to the third angel. And this power that he's going to give to the third angel, which is at the right time, allows the third angel to do what? To do its last great work, which is the swelling of its cry that's been given all the way from here, and it swells into this loud cry. Read that bit again so that we're clear on it. The work of this angel comes in at the right time to join in the last great work of the third angel's message as it swells to a loud cry. And the people of God are thus prepared to stand in the hour of temptation. So now she's talking about the people of God. So the people of God, it says that they're now... No, it should say now. It says they are thus prepared. What does it mean, thus prepared? What does it mean, thus? What does thus mean? Done already? The word thus, my understanding is, I might be wrong, it means by this. Thus means by this. So, I'm pretty sure this is correct. So I'm going to add this into this sentence. And the people of God are, by this, prepared to stand. So if thus means by this, and I'm pretty sure it does, what is the this? Tell me what the this is. Third angel? Revelation? Okay, it's by this that the people are prepared, and the this is when this angel comes down, the angel of Revelation 18, when he comes down, this does what? What does it do to God's people? It allows them to be prepared, and the people of God are thus prepared. Are we okay with that? So here, this event, what's it allowing God's people to do? To be prepared. So there's some preparation going on here. Are we okay with that? You're looking worried, Sister Terry? You're worrying me now. The people of God are thus prepared to stand in the hour of temptation. So it says you're prepared to stand in the hour of temptation. So all I want to do is do a line here. We're here. This is the preparation. My question is, it says they're thus prepared to stand in the hour of temptation. First of all, what is the hour of temptation? Tell me what you think the hour of temptation is. Okay, so the hour of temptation, people are saying the Sunday law. Yeah? So, sorry? Okay, I can't do midnight because I don't know which midnight you're referring to, because there's about 3 or 4. So I go with this Sunday law one, because everybody knows what a Sunday law is. So if we're here, where is this hour of temptation? The hour in relationship to this. Where is the hour of temptation? I've got this, and I've just put it here. So is it here, here, or here? We'll call it 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Where is this hour of temptation? At 1, 2, or 3? Everybody agrees it's at 3. How do you know it's at 3? How do you know it's 3? Because of the grammar. Yeah? If you don't know anything, it's based upon the grammar. And the people of God are, by this, the thing that's just happened, this angel coming down, are prepared to stand. So it means prepared, which indicates something's going to happen in the future. And the thing that's going to happen in the future is they're now ready to stand in the hour of temptation. So this thing here is going to prepare you for the hour of temptation. Everybody agree with that? Which they are soon to meet. There you go. Okay, so made it difficult for you because I want us to think about it. Soon to meet. So when you're here, have you met the hour of temptation? No. That's the hour of temptation. Agree with that? Good. I saw a great light resting upon them, and they united to fearlessly proclaim the third angel's message. So, when are you proclaiming the third angel's message? Oh, by the way, this here, everybody said is here? Is that what you said? Agree with that? Okay, so we're here. What are you doing now? What is this angel allowing you to do? Fearlessly do what? I'll read it again. I saw a great light resting upon them, and they united to fearlessly proclaim the third angel's message. 2 things happen when this angel comes down. One thing is you become what? So here you're united. What angel do you unite under? Remember we read it here? Remember we read that here? This was here. Great Controversy 400. All the doubts disappeared, everything got sorted out. Fanaticism melted away. You're in unity. So you see unity, and what else do you see here? It says they united to fearlessly proclaim the third angel's message. So what are they doing here? They're proclaiming the third angel's message with no fear. So if it's no fear, what were they doing before? They were proclaiming the third angel's message with fear before. Are we okay with that? So you've had time to think about this. We don't have the time because it's not that straightforward, because you have to go into different places, and we just run out of time. Is everybody happy with this structure here? I'm going to bring this and bring it over here. So people have said that here you've got the Sunday law, and here you've got the preparation, and this is the loud cry swelling. Does everybody can see that? Yeah? So, is that correct? Okay, it's not correct. If you carefully check what Ellen White's saying, this is not correct. This hour of temptation, and this is why you need to be really careful about when you proof text. So I'm guessing that when it says the hour, you're going to where? Which Bible chapter, if you don't know the verse? Revelation 17. You're going to Revelation 17, because the kings of the earth are going to rule with the woman or the beast, however the verse says, for 1 hour. When it says temptation, what does it really mean? Are people going to be tempted there? Even if we go with tempted, I would suggest it actually means tested. But what's the temptation? What's the temptation? You've got to speak loud.
Going down to Sunday.
Bowing down to Sunday.
We've been worshipping on the Sabbath Sunday.
Same answer. I think, since the contender doesn't think that either, I think the temptation is, am I really saved? Has the image of God really been restored in me? Am I really, I rubbed it out. Am I really justified? Is everything that I've taught and believed really true? Because this experience here comes after what? Everyone's united and there's no fear. There's no fear here. And they're going to fearlessly proclaim the third angel's message. To whom are they proclaiming this third angel's message? Sorry? To the world. When do we fearlessly proclaim the third angel's message to the world? What history is that? I thought that was the Sunday law, wasn't it? But everybody's put the Sunday law over here. When is the loud cry? It's the Sunday law, isn't it? We all know that. This is the Sunday law. If this is the Sunday law, what's the hour of temptation, the hour of trial, the hour where they are not sure about what's gone on in their experience? This is not the Sunday law, the hour of their temptation. This is Jacob's time of trouble. Unless we put information upon a line and carefully track things, we're liable to make mistakes. And this is what this message is all about. It's the message that God has given to Laodicea to get them out of their mistakes. Now you might think these are just technical arguments, but when you have an intellectual model that is wrong, you will have an experience that corresponds to that intellectual information, which will therefore be wrong. If this is so, when does this angel come down? Now you're worried. Okay, my brother's still saying 9/11. So at 9/11, this is where my brother is saying we're going to fearlessly proclaim the third angel's message. I would contend we're not really doing that. Plus, I could show you relatively easily. We took this from Early Writings 277, paragraph 1. This passage from Early Writings begins to get developed. Let me just check something. So don't say anything wrong. I end up saying lots of wrong things. People pick me up on them later on. So I just want to make sure I don't make a mistake. Yes, we just read 277 paragraph 1. This is taken from a book called Spiritual Gifts. I think it's 1858. I'll tell you in the next presentation. Do we know what the title of this chapter is? It's called The Loud Cry. If we were to read further down into this chapter and we begin to understand what's going on, what we'll see is Ellen White's taking us through a history very similar to the history that we've recorded here. And if you check the context, because you have to be careful about the context of where she is placing this chapter, The Loud Cry, she's saying that this angel of Revelation 18 comes down at the Sunday law. That's Early Writings 277 paragraph 1. We could go to the same place, and it's taken from this chapter here, where GC 611 is, and this is chapter 38 of the Great Controversy, which is called what? The Final Warning. She's going to quote the same verses, Revelation 18, 1, 2 and 4, and it's called the final warning. Who's the final warning being given to? To the world. She's going to tell you this is the world, this is the message that goes to the world. If it's going to the world and we don't do public evangelism now, could this be 9/11? Can't be 9/11. It has to be the Sunday law, because that's when the message fearlessly goes to the world. That's what the loud cry is. That's what's being taught here in Great Controversy, chapter 38, the final warning to the world. So what we need to understand is in our message, and it got rubbed off here earlier, but you have to follow the rules carefully. So when we say 9/11, what are we doing? We're making an application. And we need to be really careful about how we make the application and how we developed that application. So I'm hoping all of that was relatively straightforward. And we didn't quite finish. We only got to the first paragraph. We didn't even do all the other ones. But that's okay, because this was a really important passage to deal with. The next one is just the next paragraph, but I just want to read that because it's a connected thought. So we're just going to read paragraph 2. this is going to teach us, what did we learn in paragraph 1? We learned there's a connection between this message and this message. We picked that up? This was the first time, this was the second time, or this is the repeat of the second angel. Now this next paragraph is going to teach us something about this history, and this is where we begin to defend and prove 9/11. So I've already given you the clue, but if this was a class setting, we would have read the passage and then we would have wrestled and struggled with how we're going to construct 9/11. But we would do it through this next paragraph here, 277, paragraph 2. Hopefully you're going to see it. We don't have time to make a comment on it, but I'm going to read the passage. But I've told you what this passage is going to do for us. It's going to allow us to create 9/11, if I can put it that way, as a waymark in Bible prophecy. Does everybody understand what I've just said? Yeah? The way she's going to do it, she's going to go back to this history and she's going to talk about the midnight cry. She's going to have a midnight cry here, and she's going to compare the midnight cry with the loud cry. She's going to make these two comparisons. So let's read carefully. Angels were sent to aid the mighty angel from heaven, and I heard voices which seemed to sound everywhere. I'm going to read the whole paragraph, then quickly comment. I heard voices which seemed to sound everywhere. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. This message seemed to be in addition to the third message, joining it as the midnight cry joined the second angel's message in 1844. The glory of God rested upon the patient waiting saints, and they fearlessly gave the last solemn warning proclaiming the fall of Babylon and calling upon God's people to come out of her that they might escape her fearful doom. Let's retrack. First of all, she's quoting from Revelation 18 verses 4 and 5. I want us to make sure that we understand that. It says, angels were sent to aid the mighty angel from heaven, and I heard voices which seemed to sound everywhere. Who's the mighty angel from heaven? This one here. This mighty angel, Revelation 18. Now it says, other angels come down. So now there are these other angels who are going to come down from heaven. And this is verses 4 and 5. If you read the first part of verse 4, I'll read it for you. It says, and I heard another voice. There's another voice, and this other voice is this voice here that's going to join. So let's read that again. So there's this angel from Revelation 18 who has joined the third angel, and now there's other angels coming down. Angels were sent to aid the mighty angel from heaven, and I heard voices which seemed to sound everywhere. And the voices are saying what? Revelation 18 verses 4 and 5. Come out of her, my people. This message seemed to be in addition to the third message. What is the third message saying? What's this third message say? Don't receive the mark of the beast. Is that a good or bad message? It's a bad message. It says if you have that mark, you will die. This message is going to join it. What's this message? A message of mercy. So, mercy with this judgment message, or justice and mercy have done what? Kissed each other. That's what's being brought to view here. The mercy and the judgment, or the justice of God. Third angel's message is justice. Before the justice is going to be inflicted upon them, he's going to give a message of mercy. Yes? The glory of God rested upon, this message seemed to be in addition to the third message, joining it as the midnight cry during the second angel's message in 1844. So she's going to take you back to this history. Take out this. What message is this? Second message. I'll read it. As the midnight cry joined the second angel's message. Second angel's message. What's going to join it? The cry at midnight. If you went back into early writings, you know what she's going to say here? Angels from heaven came down and joined this angel. So you've got these angels coming down. She says this model here is the same model as here. The third angel is running through history, and these angels come down and join this angel. The glory of God rested upon the patient waiting saints, and they fearlessly gave the last solemn warning. That's why this is called the final warning. That's where they got that concept from. Gave the last solemn warning, proclaiming the fall of Babylon and calling upon God's people to come out of her that they might escape her fearful doom. Who's the her? Babylon. So you know that all of this, when we read paragraph 1, all of this that we constructed is the Sunday law history, because this fearless proclamation of the third angel's message is not to the church. It's not to our church that this is referring to. It's referring to the world. Hopefully we can see that when you put the verses together. We haven't quite finished our reform line. There's some bits and pieces that we need to finish off. But I want us to see the importance of carefully reading contextually. And because we are so familiar with saying the angel of Revelation 18 came down at 9/11, what we end up doing if we're not careful is coming to the right answer using the wrong methodology. And if you do that, you're headed for problems. Did Jesus cleanse the sanctuary on October 22nd, 1844? Did the Millerites have the right answer? But they were using the wrong methodology and they got into a problem. So we want to be careful about how we approach this whole subject, because you're liable to make mistakes. Now, we need to develop our understanding of how we're now going to demonstrate that this angel comes down at 9/11. And we'll do that at our next presentation, Lord willing. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for your goodness and mercy. We ask and pray for a special blessing upon us as we are in the day, that you are going to restore your image in us. It's my hope and prayer that this holy convocation is a stepping stone for that process to happen, that we may be restored to your glorious, beautiful image. We ask that you would be with us and guide us. Help our brethren who are still travelling on their way to arrive here safely, and be with us who are in this encampment. We ask and pray these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.